Yeah, exactly like Uber. Uber started in a few, you know, when Uber started, they were just a couple streets in San Francisco, right? They only were like 4 to 6 streets in San Francisco. Now I can go all the way on the other side of the world and find an Uber.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we're hoping to do. You know, start local, grow big, and hopefully everyone will have this in the palm of their hands as soon as possible.
I like that. So, as a father of three boys myself, when I listen to somebody say, "This my two sons made it to MLB," or LeVar Ball's case, you got three boys who made it to the NBA. That's a great resume piece when it comes to presentation. So I have to ask you, Kim, what was the journey like getting your two sons to the MLB?
It was it was trying in that I had to use a lot of strategic maneuvers in order to get them seen by the right people. First of all, first I had to prepare them. So got the coaches, I was preparing them. Then I had to get them on the right teams. Right. I couldn't put them on a team where they just blew away everybody else. I had to put them on get them on teams where they would be challenged. Then, in order to get on some teams, you in Canada, you have to live in certain jurisdictions to play on that team. So, in one case, the best team in the province of Ontario was in a city called Mississauga. We lived in Brampton at the time. I had to, in order to get my son, Dalton, on that team, first of all, I had to get the coach to notice him. So we knew we would be playing this team one day, in that year. I had prepared Dalton to pitch the best game he could ever pitch for about 4 months. We worked with a pitching coach, and Dalton and I worked on throwing strikes, pitching well. We prepared for that one game against this team, and Dalton threw a no-hitter for 6 innings. So he definitely impressed the coach. But again, I was being strategic in that I knew in order to get on that team, first of all, I got to impress this coach. Second, I got to live there. So I impressed the coach. Dalton threw a 6-inning no-hitter, and then we had to now get on that team in Mississauga. Because we lived in Brampton, I couldn't just say, here's Dalton. No, because he wouldn't be able to play no matter how good he was. So I had to sell my house in Brampton in order for Dalton to play on that team in Mississauga. So I sold my house. It's my kid. I'll do anything for my kid. So I sold my house. So that's the most memorable experience I've had with the journey in terms of what did I do to get there. Working with the boys, I didn't have the ability to say, is there another 10-year-old kid out there who's as good as Dalton that I can work out with anytime I want? So he'd be working on pitching. We need a pitching coach. We need eyes to look at his pitching. I had to get Mom to get catcher's gear, and Mom would be the catcher while Dalton threw 50, 60-mile-an-hour pitches at Mom. But Mom was there. Again, you be strategic. You got to make this thing. You're doing your best to make your kid the best that they can be in whatever they're doing. So in terms of the journey, the journey's there, but we didn't think anything of the methods that we use to get the boys to where they are, because it's your kids. You're a dad. You got three kids. You know what it's like to love unconditionally. That's what my wife and I did. We love the boys unconditionally. So the journey continued, but that's the work. And then there's other factors. Dalton being a half-breed kid, half black, half white, he's considered a black person, not a mulatto person or a white person. So even on this best team in Ontario that he played at, he dealt with racism. So at one point, one kid had called him the N-word, and Dalton never heard this. He was totally he was damaged by it. He was hurt by it. I explained to him that that's just the world we live in. Try to let it slip off your back. But it was difficult for it to slip off his back. And then we had to deal with the coach having to choose sides, because when we brought it to the coach's attention, the coach, unfortunately, he did not choose the side of the black kid or the mulatto kid. He chose the side of the white kid. He actually cut Dalton from the team. So, dude, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, but you got to be resilient. You can't let this stuff stop you. This is the world that we live in. So I continue to move on. I just put Dalton on another team because Dalton is now known as a very good player on the best team in Ontario. Okay, so I just put Dalton on another team. So we just kept moving forward. But there's going to be challenges, even with parents who choose to put their kids in ping pong, volleyball, whatever the sport is. They're going to deal with challenges. But you got to be up for the challenge as a parent, because the kid can't fight for himself. You know, the kids can't drive themselves to the practices, to the games. They're not 16 yet. They don't have driver's license. So you've got to be there. So my wife and I were always there for the boys whenever they needed us, no matter what it was, whether it was physical, mental, emotional, we were there for them. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to stop after they become 30-year-olds. But that's all right, too. That's
a lifetime contract right there, you know?
You know it, man.
Exactly.
You know it's a lifetime journey, but we're ready for it. But in terms of the challenges, yes, you're going to have challenges. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have injuries. Stuff happens. Dalton was the starting center fielder of the 2015 Toronto Blue Jays, and then he was kind of flabbergasted that he made it to the MLB, this team that we used to go watch on a weekly basis. Now he's actually on the field. He got flabbergasted. So a guy who was hitting well, doing everything well, he was just a little overwhelmed, and unfortunately, he lost his starting spot to another player, and then unfortunately, injuries happen and stuff happens. Life happens, so there's going to be challenges. But again, who do the boys jump on whenever there's a challenge? Their parents, you know. And if they don't have them, it becomes a really difficult journey for them. And so hopefully I didn't talk your ear off there, but
No. The one thing I noticed, I'm gonna give it to Tom. I'm sure you got some questions for you as well. But when I was looking at your page and watching some of your content, I noticed, I'm like, I saw the one Q&A you did. It was like a 10-minute Q&A interview that you did probably about 2 years ago when you first started.
Okay.
Early beginnings. And I was like, well, I couldn't find enough interviews of you telling your story. So this was really, I wanted this to be a platform where you could share your story, because I believe that is arguably one of the best marketing pieces that you have.
Absolutely.
PomSports is telling a true story of your two sons going through the adversity, facing those challenges head on, and ultimately achieving the goal. Even though it may have been short-lived, you still reached the goal. You still made it. A lot of us don't make it. You're still in that small percentage of people, especially our people, that actually get a chance to get the opportunity to create generational wealth and be able to create the opportunity for generations to come.
You got it. Especially being in Canada too. Making a team on the major leagues in the U.S. It was even tougher for us. Right? Yeah, so it was even tougher. But again, strategically, had to put ourselves in a place where, how do we get seen by the U.S.? Right. Get on the Canadian national team. You get on the Canadian national team, the world sees you. So again, being strategic, the goal was get to this team in Mississauga. Second goal, get to the Canadian national team. And in order to get to the Canadian national team, they already had a center fielder. Dalton had to be faster, run faster than the current center fielder that was on in the Canadian national team. So because of the track coach I hired from York University, we prepared for this one kid, for this one little sprint that they had to do for tryouts for the Canadian national team. Well, Dalton beat him. Because Dalton beat him, Dalton got his job. He was no longer the center fielder on that team, on the Canadian national team. Dalton became the center fielder. Dalton was a very good defensive player, hitter, all of that, but it was his speed that got the coach's attention. But I knew that. Again, being strategic is something that I do naturally, and sometimes people have to learn that skill. They don't have it naturally. So again, working in the PomSports environment, that's what we will be teaching our people and teaching our community. It's not just about the sport. It's about the mental. It's about being strategic. It's a lot of things that go with the sport.
Ultimately, it's not about actually how good you are and the skills you have, but how bad do you want it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's an e-sport, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Or in life in general.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just going to say, a big part of having, that of going through that process is nurturing that talent, is honing that talent, is developing that talent. I mean, I'm sure we all have stories about a friend or a friend of a friend when we were growing up who was an amazing talent, an amazing athlete, an amazing sort of sports prospect that maybe didn't pan out to be all that their potential led them up to be because of the inability to get coaches, the inability to find other players that will make you better and get you to that next level. So it's so important to nurture and hone that talent. And I know every parent out there wants their kids to reach their utmost potential. So it's definitely something that not only you have to start with talent, but you have to nurture that talent as well.
The one thing you didn't mention in that is a key thing that I know Ken definitely can understand and relate to is the nurturing starts with the parents.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So some of those talents that you may have grown up with that had all the potential in the world, and you could see it, their light shine the brightest, but their parents didn't, perfect that. That bulb didn't get to shine as bright as it could have.
Yeah.
The parents weren't as invested. I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I can just touch on that, like a lot of parents want the best for their kids, but they're just financially unable to provide it to them, right? They may not be at that, socioeconomic stage in their life or point on that ladder to be able to give their kids the things that they need to excel, right? So one part of our app is that when you make a profile, when you join as an athlete, you can actually garner a following of fans, of supporters, followers, essentially. Those very same supporters and followers can help financially contribute towards your sports goals and your sports endeavors. If you need equipment, to be able to make it to the next practice or the next big game, then you can again get that financial support from your following. So it takes a lot of pressure off of parents to be able to find those financial means, those coaching means. We're trying to encompass this PomSports app and platform to make it easier for kids, parents, athletes, everyone to excel.